The poisoning of La Roya, Peru. It's a story with so many layers. Every time you peel one back, something else, someone else appears. Smokestacks from a factory called the Doe Run Peru smelter stand high on the horizon. Rocks and minerals are brought here and processed into metals like lead, copper, and zinc. The company dominates life in La Roya. It's the area's largest employer. It funds schools. It operates health clinics. The smelter is also the reason the watchdog group, the Blacksmith Institute, says La Roya is one of the 10 most polluted places on the planet. I'll tell you, you can taste the stuff in the back of your throat, burns your eyes a little bit. It's sulfur dioxide, it's arsenic, it's lead, and it's all the byproducts that come from this particular smelting plant. I feel it today, and I've only been here one day, but imagine for those people over there. They live here in that particular residential area. They have to deal with this every single day. Doctors and researchers say it's making people very sick. And Mercedes Inga says it's killing them as well. Her daughter died 2 years ago. What specifically happened to your oldest daughter?
A mi hija la mayor, ella sufrió.
She had headaches, stomach aches, trouble sleeping, she says, wounds that would just not heal for months. She was in and out of hospitals for 9 years, and she suffered from bone cancer. Excessive lead exposure has been linked to cancer. While doctors may never be completely certain what led to her daughter's illness, Mercedes showed us Mary Cruz's medical records as proof that her blood was filled with toxic levels of lead and arsenic. How did your daughter get poisoned with all these substances?
Porque yo soy nacida.
She says because she was born and raised close to the Doe Run plant in La Roya. Stop this, I think. Okay. Mary Cruz was 17 years old. What the Doe Run plant says about Mary Cruz's death might surprise you, and we'll show you that in a second. But first, how this place became so toxic.
The main source of contamination is here in the smelter.
That smelting plant.
The smelting plant operated by Doe Run.
Jose Serrano is a public health researcher from St. Louis University. He came here in 2005 to gather blood and soil samples to independently study the health of La Roya's citizens. His findings were stunning.
As far as lead, we tested all ages. From 6 months to 6 years, we found that 98% of the children had elevated blood lead levels.
98%. The young tissues and nervous systems of children are particularly susceptible to lead poisoning. Juan Carlos Wiwa is Doe Run Peru's president. Is the pollution a problem here?
In the past, it was a problem in the past, but right now, the reductions in the levels are significantly lower and lower.
That's true. Lead in the air has dropped nearly 70% over the past decade. Doe Run bought the plant in 1997, after the smelter had been running for more than 75 years with no environmental oversight. So some of that lead in the land around La Roya has been there for decades. Lead, the government agreed it would clean up, according to Doe Run. But today, Doe Run's own data shows it is pumping out hazardous levels of lead.
But even you would admit, I think most people would admit, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, when Doe Run Peru was here, it was very polluted. And you were getting people who had high concentrations of lead in their blood, high concentrations of arsenic in their blood. Was that not happening?
In the past, those levels were higher, like I said.
How long ago?
As a Doe Run?
Just a few years ago.
But Doe Run says it has spent more than $300 million to make improvements. Much of the plant is now enclosed so that fewer emissions are released. The river water snaking through La Roya has been cleaned up by Doe Run. And there are Doe Run-sponsored public health initiatives as well, like teaching children to wash their hands properly, and street sweepers who brush away the lead that falls from the sky. So there have been improvements, but this place is still poisonous. The reality is, poisonous or not, La Roya depends on the smelter. The average Doe Run employee makes $20,000. That's 6 times the average Peruvian income. So it's no surprise that few townspeople are eager to speak out against the company. It's the battle line between earning a living and basic health that few have been willing to cross. Until now. Which brings us back to Mercedes Inga.
If you did sit down and talk to the president of Doe Run, what would you tell him?
She says, I would tell him about the damage they have done.
These are stories that we're hearing about this particular plant, and she thinks it's because of the poisoning that occurred as a result of what happens here.
Well, the only thing that we can say that it's not, let's say, a good news if that happens, and I do not have a good knowledge of that. But if what that's the case, I guess the experts or doctors maybe are taking care of that. But now, what is the reality? I don't know.
The reality for Mercedes Inga is that her daughter is gone. And it's here. You might think this story's coming to a close. But instead, there's another one of those layers. You see, Doe Run has a sister company that does the same work, processes the same metals, but does it safely. What's more, both companies are owned by one of the wealthiest and most elusive men in the world.
We've been looking everywhere for him. We can't get close to him. But we do know that's his house, right over there.